Instagram live as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay,
Crazy
so
technology.
Here. Oh, okay, Kareem, we're not looking at you in the shower. You can turn off your camera if you need to. Okay, new chat thing. Actually, I like Zoom a lot anyway, so this is going to be great. We're now live. Welcome everybody to the March edition of the Montessori Show. We had a little tech hiccup there, and we'll work out how to upload this to YouTube for those people who can't join us live. I'm just going to move my computer over here. Google Hangouts wouldn't let us into our normal call. I'm Simone Davies from the Montessori Show, and I run the Montessori Notebook, and we have Jeanne-Marie Paynel from Voilà Montessori.
Yes, hello everyone. This is Jeanne-Marie, and I'm the techie one usually, and YouTube completely changed everything on us this morning. So I was ready, but I guess not that ready. So
yeah, and welcome everyone in the chat. This is really nice, actually. Adeline, we can see you guys, which is kind of fun.
I know, which is nice.
Actually, what's also interesting is I can turn on their questions, so we actually might be able to chat live, which is amazing. Actually, it's going to work out great. Okay, so I think we get straight started. We were going to be talking about decluttering today. Montessori, as Montessori teachers, Jeanne-Marie and I really see the importance of setting up a beautiful environment. This is like what we call the second teacher, so that in a Montessori classroom, for example, we have beautiful materials that are laid out in an attractive way, and we then help the children. And you can do the same thing at home. And it works best when you have less, less is more, we always say, huh? Are you okay, Jeanne-Marie? You plugged in?
I am. I was just putting my phone up there to do the Instagram live to try to get people over here. But I don't know if it's worth it. So let me just press on the live.
I can see Julia here. I know people from my classes and I can see their faces. And Morven, people who, this is really nice.
Hello, everybody on Instagram. This is Jeanne-Marie Paynel. And I am on Zoom with Simone for the Montessori Show. We had some technical difficulties. So if you can join us, look in my post about the Montessori Show, and you will have the link to join us on Zoom.
I just need to mute a few people. That's okay.
Okay, so I'm all yours now.
Okay, so I'm making you a host. Oh no, it says, do I want to change the host? No, it's okay. I thought I was going to kind of somehow promote you to a host, but if you can chat, I think we're good. Okay, sorry as we get used to the new technology, I think we should get started. I've got some really interesting questions, or did you want to introduce anything in particular from the decluttering things that you've done?
I had all my books out, ready to show some of
What's your favorites?
Well, the life-changing magic of tidying up, I think, is just such a sweet one, and just very kind of spiritual in a way, because it's really about feeling what all of these things that we have around, bring to us. So I really appreciate that one. And then, of course, Joshua Becker, that I had interviewed on some of the summits as well. And then Danae Baranoa. So there's really a lot of resources for us.
I don't know the Renee one. Can you show that one?
So this is Zoe Kim, but Danae did a foreword. So it's Minimalism for Families.
Okay, I'll put that in the chat.
And and I can put I'll share all the links of these. But
good idea.
For me, decluttering is not only just about the physical space, but it really is about our mental space, how we can really get so much benefit to release, all of these possessions that we have that sometimes have maybe very, are emotionally heavy, or just take up space and take up dust and all of that. So I know I had a great experience that I shared with you, Simone, over the holidays, where I ended up being home by myself. and just, you know, on a whim decided to go through my entire kitchen, and I emptied out everything and really decluttered. And it was just so empowering and just freeing to be able to open those cupboards and go, oh, nice. You know, you get a real sense of accomplishment and just relief. So that's really nice.
You feel lighter, don't you? And it's
Much
nice
lighter.
that we have a very, when you have everything, a Montessori phrase that we often use is a place for everything and everything in its place. And when you can also eventually get to your adult spaces as well, it's really nice. I was inspired by Jeanne-Marie, and I was sick of, we have a small kitchen in Amsterdam, and I was sick of things falling on my head. And so I also it took an hour and a half and I'd done the whole thing. And it's been great ever since. Nice glass jars from IKEA for 35 euros. Exactly. And I was fun.
Exactly.
So It brings joy as well. What I love about the Marie Kondo approach is she say, keep anything that sparks joy or that's useful. And so you can go through your house and think, why am I holding on to this? And what I really like about her approach is that she says, it's how she says goodbye to things as well. Because sometimes we feel guilty, like, oh, we haven't used it, so I shouldn't get rid of it. But it's taking up our mental and physical space. And so maybe a friend gave you a present and you haven't really used it, but you can still be grateful for the thought that she gave you. And you can say, thank you so much for the gift, and I'm going to let it go. And even better if it can go on to a new home, because someone's trash is another person's treasure. Here in Amsterdam, we're really lucky because we can put things out on the street here. And usually overnight, someone's reused it. And likewise, I have a collection of chairs around my dining table, and most of them are from someone else's house when they didn't want them anymore. So it's really nice if you have a community where you can pass things on as well. That's also a lovely way to let things go. Sorry, Jenny, I'm just going to mute you. One moment. There we go. All right.
Sorry, trying to multitask. When you make me a host, will the images go back? Because right now I only see small little images. Not sure how that works.
The person talking is the person that will be recorded.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware.
Alrighty. So do you want to start with the questions that you have?
I think that sounds great. And then we'll also take questions from the chat as well, everyone. Okay.
Okay.
So this one's from Sylvia. She says, thanks for this wonderful job you do. Thank you. My question is, and it's not the first time I ask a question like this, but she actually struggles to get an answer or final method that actually works. How to get anyone in the house involved in decluttering? Most of the time, it looks like my husband does not understand the importance of decluttering or whatever, and it looks like he does everything the other way around. I believe that both me and my husband and my children have to work together in order to have a decluttered house. And it's very exciting because they're expecting their second daughter, and congratulations, Sylvia. So, Jeanne-Marie, have you got any tips on getting family on board?
I think it's just by example, unfortunately. I mean, I know that when I did this big decluttering in my home, my husband and my son were out of town, so I kind of took this opportunity. And when they got back, it was, you know, I had of course not only decluttered but moved things around that seemed more logical for me. And you know, they had a little moment of adjustment, but I think that they also just appreciated it. So I think sometimes you just have to start doing it. I know that it's hard when, you know, your significant other tends to accumulate things, and that can make it hard. So, you know, I would definitely support them and try to empower them to maybe let go of some of these things and kind of offer different ways of maybe taking pictures, writing about it, putting it away, maybe not getting rid of it completely, but putting it away temporarily so that we can feel the difference, kind of experiment. Those would be, you know, some of the ways. I know, as I was saying, that when they came back, they were a little bit, you know, oh my gosh, but then it's said, oh yes, it does feel better. And there's a lot less things to put away and everything. So sometimes you just have to, you know, do the project yourself and believe that the results are beneficial to everybody and that they will be on board. So
yeah, I think also Marie Kondo does talk about this in her book as well. And she says, don't worry about anybody else in your household. Just focus on your stuff and getting it sorted out. So you could even, before you even tackle maybe the family toys and the, you know, group environment, then you actually, are you okay? Oh, Jeanne-Marie's muting. I thought she was talking to me. Then, yeah, she was, so she was saying, focus on sorting out your stuff first, and then otherwise, I'm gonna have to move that. Sorry, I was getting distracted by Jeanne-Marie talking over.
sorry. I'm trying to be on the Instagram live and get people to come join us on Zoom, but I can't reach my phone, so.
So that's no problem. Okay, I was just saying though that she says to focus on your things first, and then so start by sorting out your clothes cupboard, and then your toiletries that are in your bathroom cupboard, and then your kitchen cupboards of the cupboards that you use, and then maybe the children's toys. And then by this time, other people in the family will start to see that things have a place and everything in their place, and you keep returning it and modeling. And I saw it actually happen in my own house, because I was busy sorting out my cupboard, only keeping clothes that spark joy. The first time I ever cleared out my cupboard, you basically are meant to collect everything from around your house. So sometimes you have something by the entranceway, some things in the laundry, some things in storage, and all these kind of things. She says, put all your clothes onto your bed, and then hold up each one and see if you still like it, you know, if it still sparks joy. And I like that, because then you only put back into the cupboard things that you really still like. I've been done other kind of decluttering where you kind of like move things from one end to the other and this kind of thing, or yeah, but I really found that by actually physically taking everything out and having to put it back into the cupboard, I made a big decision. So that's something that you might like to try yourself. And then it felt so nice to open my cupboard and only have things that I liked wearing in there. And even since then, I've taken away a few things.
Oh, good.
And people often people often worry that they're going to get rid of too many things, and that happened to me. I only kept 2 pairs of jeans, and then my jeans ripped the very next week, and I'm like, okay, so maybe I need to have a little bit of a buffer. But for the cost of in our head of all of the physical space and mental space that these extra things take up, you know, for the few things that you might need to repurchase, really a couple out of the many things you get rid of, it can really take a big, it can make a big difference. So Sylvia, my advice would be to focus on your things first. And then, as I did that, my son sorted his room out and got rid of some things. And then my daughter, who is notorious for collecting things, actually asked if I could help her do her room. So it really does work. That was actually about 6 months later though. So it took some time for her to get used to, the feeling, the lightness of having less things around the home as well.
Yes.
So I think the other thing that I thought you could also do is, like, if you do have someone who collects things, then you could give them a zone of the home that they could take over for the collection. And that it's important to you that you like store things, or that you're more the hoarder, but is there a place in the home that you could keep those things, and so we could keep the other spaces free for the family? So it's, again, always realizing that everyone has needs, and you can't change everyone's mind that decluttering is all of a sudden what everyone else finds important, that you also have to know that everyone else has things that are important to them as well. Okay, so the next question then is from Carrie, and she says it isn't about physically decluttering, it's about decluttering our time and schedule, which I thought was a brilliant approach. She says she has 2 boys. Wilder is almost 3 and Milo is 8 months, and we're at home together full time. My almost 3-year-old is showing signs of readiness for lots of Montessori work, sandpaper letters, numbers, number rods, etc. But I haven't quite figured out how to gently steer us towards regularly working in our homeschool classroom. I thought of making a weekly routine schedule, for example, school after breakfast on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but I'm wondering what your advice is on how to create a little more structured routine for school, free play, and life at home without stepping on a child's freedom and ability to choose his own work. Thank you, Carrie. So I think it's a great question.
So I'm sorry, can you repeat just the part about she's wanting advice on how to reduce the schedule? Is that what it is?
So she's wondering how she should schedule homeschooling, when she should make hours that you actually do work and do things like, like working with sandpaper letters and more formal numbers and things like,
So
more
I
formal
would
homeschooling.
Yeah, I would really start by observing when everybody is more alert. I mean, my instinct is to say first thing in the morning after breakfast and all of that, but that might not be the case in your home. So I think it's really important to gauge kind of the energy of everybody, including yourself, because you have to be, very present for some of those lessons. And then seeing how the flow of the day goes, and really setting that time, that is the time that we actually spend in the kind of the instructional time of the day. And I would really make it, a kind of a community decision where you're deciding together, and really setting it on a calendar where maybe you can have a visual of what happens before, then we have the work period, and what happens afterwards. I think a visual really helps there as well.
Yeah, so I do agree, Jeanne-Marie. I do think it's nice, rather than saying, oh, well, we're homeschooling, so it should be available all the time. I do think it should be a structured 2 or 3 hour work period at some point in the day. And yeah, again, work out what works best. I'm just going to mute a couple of people. If you can mute from your end, then do. Otherwise we get a little bit of background noise. That's the only downside of Zoom. I haven't worked out how to just do a broadcast, but that's okay. We're improvising and it's working. So what I do think that often first thing after breakfast, once everyone's dressed, or you decide, do we even need to be dressed to go to school, to have classes? In Montessori classrooms, we try to establish a 2 or 3 hour work period, which is undisturbed. That's when the children have freedom to choose in this, work environment. If you have a younger one, the work period might not be as long, but it could be just this, regular part of the day, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, if that's what you want to commit to, so you can go out the other days. But have a fixed schedule. And you can close off that part of the house when you're not working in the Montessori classroom. Otherwise, they tend to use the number rods as swords and things like that. And they really learn that these materials have a very special use, and they're used in our homeschool time. And, 3 hours a day is more than enough for young children to be working with the materials. Then all the other time of the day, you still have a lot of freedom to choose and play, because you have practical life activities that are being done any time of the day. Things like cleaning the house, baking, preparing food, care of self, all of these kind of activities, board games, getting outdoors, and just daily life, playing with blocks and more free open-ended play. And Carrie says, creating a visual calendar with a little more structured schedule is a great idea. Thanks so much. Oh, Carrie's on the call. Perfect. So Carrie, if you're here, can I find you on the call? I don't know. If you have any other questions, let us know. Oh, there you are, Carrie. I saw you. I just you went past. Let me see if I can unmute you. There you are. Okay, so Carrie, do you want to say hello?
Hello. I'm
this
here.
This is so exciting.
I had my camera covered up because I have.
Oh,
that's Milo, isn't it?
Hi.
Oh, I love this. I love that we can have you guys on the call. That's
I know.
awesome.
I think we might have to change to Zoom. This is actually a lot better that we can actually talk to people.
And get the questions back. So I'm trying to get you back on the screen. How can I get you back on the screen? If you talk, maybe it will pop back up.
Okay. Hello.
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 Oh.
Hello.
Let me see if I can get you on the screen. Pin video. I think that makes you. Oh yeah, there you are.
I can see myself up here. I don't know if.
Yeah, I think it works.
I can click.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like you've got too much clutter around your house. So,
I'm like a freak about. I don't have clutter. Yeah, but so our days are very we do practical life all day long. We play blocks. We like incorporate Montessori into whatever play and practical life activities we're doing. And so, my question was more, we have a little homeschool room, and it actually has glass French doors that open up to our living room. So it's like the perfect little workspace, because you can close the doors and give yourself some time to concentrate. And Wilder, my almost 3-year-old, is ready for number rods, sandpaper, letters, numbers, all that stuff. but he just doesn't naturally gravitate towards the classroom. I have all the shelves open. Simone, it was my Instagram picture that I took a picture of the cover of your book, and my shelf was almost identical to the cover.
Yes,
if you remember that.
Yes,
so that's our classroom. Yeah, that's our classroom, and Wilder just doesn't go there. So I just was trying to think, like, how can I kind of create a little more structure and a little less freedom, I guess, during the day to kind of steer him into that room.
And actually, I'm thinking it might even be suitable that when the baby naps, that might be, oh, the baby's gone to bed, now it's our work cycle, you know? And you could even have a sign on the door that says open and closed, you know, so that that visually would also be another way of him knowing that that's a good time to start.
That's a great idea. Okay, thank you so much. That's so
all right. Well, yeah, thanks for
yeah, and that's what I meant about observing, you know, how the flow of your life is going, and even your energy, you know, how and determine from there, like, okay, this is the time that we're going to, I want to show you some new material and things like that.
Yes.
And just be patient with it, like, you know, let it flow.
Yes, nothing like a toddler to increase your capacity for patience and kindness for yourself.
Yes. They are our greatest teachers, for sure.
All right. Okay, Carrie, I'm going to put you back on mute. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
And Michaela's joined us from Romania. Welcome, Michaela. Okay, so next question from Francis. I won't be able to make it live tomorrow, but I'll definitely watch the replay. My question in relation to the topic is how best to approach decluttering with a 3.5-year-old. If I ask him what he wants to keep, of course he will say everything. He loves everything on wheels, so he's got tons of cars, tractors, trucks, even motorhomes. All shapes and sizes, boxes of them, mostly gifted by his grandparents over the years. He loves them all, although he does have some clear favorites. I want to be sensitive to his needs. He's his own person and has his own things, but I'd also really love to have a simple, calming, minimalist home. Many thanks, Francis. Isn't this great? Such good questions. There's the ones that come up often, so it's really good that they're coming up today.
So, and you said he was how old? 4?
3.5. Yeah.
3.5. Yeah. I mean, to me, there, you know, it's about you still being the curator of the environment. Like, asking a 3.5-year-old, what does he want to keep? Of course, he wants to keep everything. Everything is just so wonderful and beautiful and everything. So you have to lead the way. And from your observation, like you say, there are certain favorites. I would definitely keep those, and then put the other ones away, kind of out of sight, just to get used to this clarity of mind with the you know, with a decluttered environment. Because if we listen to them, I mean, we will, you know, be under a mountain of all sorts of you know, stuff. So be in charge and be the curator of the environment, and make those choices for him by your observation, being very respectful. And you know, if he asks for something in particular, say, oh yes, I noticed you hadn't been working with it for long, and I put it away. Would you like to maybe trade it for something, so that there is this flow of, when we bring something in, we also let go of something, so we're not hoarding everything, if that makes sense. And that's, you know, that's a principle in Feng Shui, where when we bring something into our homes, we let go of something, so that we're not accumulating so much as well. And that's really, really helpful, to always be having this flow of give and take.
Yeah, I think definitely the first step in this is not getting rid of everything, but rotating some things out. So we know they're still in the house, but they're just not all available right now. And that's another thing that I always suggest is, if you want to take out she said, for example, mobile home, then let's choose one to put away that we're not using right now. And then they learn to play with less, because what we've found is that if there's less toys available, they actually focus longer. And I'll actually post a link in the show notes, because there was actually some research done that with children offered 16 toys, played shorter periods of time with them, then children offered something like 4 toys. So it's a really nice article that backs up the less is more kind of thing as well. So I'll add the link to the less is more article there as well. The other thing I thought is my kids, for example, found it hard. Like if I was saying, okay, we're going to donate some things now, what should we pull out that you're not using anymore? They found that really, really difficult. And it's a skill that you need to kind of scaffold. And often if it's someone who they know, it's actually easier. Like, oh, you know, we're getting too old for this. And our friend Marta is actually just the right age. Would it be okay if we passed it on to her? And they see that's the first step. And then they might be happy for you to give it away to charity or to send it overseas to family who don't have as many things. That can be something to work on. Or you have a box in a corner of the house that you're happy to put things in that they're ready to get rid of. And I noticed that it wasn't until my kids were around 7 years old, and we have King's Day once a year here, which is when there's a free market and the children can sell toys, and they realize they could earn money for the toys they sold, that they thought, oh, this is actually quite nice to get rid of things. So it's really hard, I think, for children under that age to get to volunteer to give away their things. That's a skill that we need to build. Yeah.
Yes.
Adeline says, I like that. So hard to do. One thing goes if one thing comes. It is. And basically the more that you're confident with it, the more they pick up that it's okay. Like, oh yeah, you really are having a hard time saying goodbye to that one, and we're going to put that one away. Yeah, it will come out again soon. Oh, you want to keep that one? Let's find another one that we can take. So just be super calm about it, and it's okay too.
Yeah. And you know, the other thing too, there's all sorts of like little rituals that you can do around maybe, you know, if the child isn't like wanting to let it go, you can take a picture of it. You can have like, like you were saying about how Marie Kondo has a way of releasing. There's somebody who needs to be muted, I think.
Yeah, I'm going along and muting it.
Okay. That's good that you're able to do that. And, you know, so maybe take a picture of it, or, you know, take a picture of it and write a little story about it, or things like that, which will help kind of the releasing and the transition. But, you know, I think it, like you say, Simone, it's really about a skill that we need to help our children achieve, is this not holding on to possessions, really, which is hard in our, you know, ever consuming society that we're in. But it's good to just be appreciative of what we have. And you know, some of the things that we're no longer using, other people can use, or it's just time to say goodbye. And we can definitely have little rituals around that.
Great. Okay. I think that covers Francis's question. So we've got 3 questions from Duba, and then we'll be moving into the chat box when we've got one from Jessica at the top, and you guys can keep adding any questions in there. Okay, we will go a little bit over 9 o'clock if you're okay with that, Jeanne-Marie, because we started a little bit late.
Yes,
but,
yes, of course.
Okay, perfect. So Duba asks, she's got 3 questions. She says that Montessori has helped me to be and stay quite minimal and not have too much clutter and toys. We do a lot of practical life with our 19-month-old and have a few open-ended toys on his shelf in his room and another in the living room. Sorry, another area in the living room. So what interests me is, first of all, what toys, materials are absolutely essential for 19-month-olds and up. Yeah, I love that. So she's really wanting to select what are the most appropriate activities for the age. And the ones that I like, I always say, like, have about maximum of 6 toys. And people are like, that's not very many. And I'm like, but that means you really have to select really well. Which ones do they play with? And for a 19-month-old, it's something that keeps their attention for more than 5 minutes. And 5 minutes isn't a very long period of time, but it is a period of concentration where they're able to repeat a 1 or 2 step activity. So for example, in our class, we have a little coin box, and it's got a little slot, and I have some large Australian coins, and they can be slotted in. Oh, I've just got to cancel the spotlight video. I'm not sure if it was recording me. Did I come up on your screen? Hopefully.
You're here. You're on my screen.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay. I think I was worried that it was recording you still. So these big Australian coins that get posted in. So I have 5 coins, not 100 coins, not just 1 coin, but enough to repeat. And then once the coins are inside the box, then there's a little key that they turn. and open the box. And the way that I set up the activity is also, I think, important, because I could just put the coin box with the coins in the box on the shelf. But what tends to happen is then the kids just pick it up and start rattling it really loud. And instead I have a little bowl to the left, because we tend to work from left to right in Montessori activities on a tray. So we have a little bowl on the left with the 5 coins in it, and a tray to hold the coins and the box together, because then they can carry that whole activity to a mat. When they're younger, they may just work at the shelf. That's okay, because they're building their concentration to get to that point as well. So coin box, definitely, that would be my number 1 pick for a 19-month-old. Jeanne-Marie, you want to pick one too?
19-month-old would be, I love the lock box, the box that has all of the different latches.
There's one now by Melissa and Doug that we have in our classroom that's got difficult keys, but they have a little doorbells, and you can hide 4 objects inside. And so that's quite a affordable option, because the lock box is around $100, where this one is.
I actually just posted on the blog this week about taking a trip to the hardware store. Sometimes is just, wonderful. Just a lot of little manipulatives, just nuts and bolts, a big nut and bolt. So just a little basket with some of those. I mean, to me, it's always about, what they are gravitating towards in the house. And so again, and I know I sound like a broken record, but it's this idea of observation, like see what your child is interested in. And that's what should, the only thing that should be out really is if it is something about, transferring items from one place to the other, if it's opening, bottles or keys and things like that, then that's what needs to be out, and really only that.
Okay, I've listed a few more while you were talking.
Oh,
And,
good.
I have another favorite is a basket of purses, which have got different kind of openings and closings. So it's similar to what Jeanne-Marie was talking, but basically a 19-month-old is often trying to master and refine. Exactly. This
Exactly.
zippers, there's often a press stud and those kind of things. And they're basically trying to master and refine their grasp and refine their movements and their fine motor movements. Threading activities. So around 19 months, having a stick that you can thread beads on is the first step. And then like a string that's got a wooden piece on the end that helps go through is easier than a shoelace, for example. And then they can graduate to a shoelace. Simple art and craft activities like Play-Doh and drawing, they start to get interested in around that age. And watercolor I find also really nice for that age, because they can have quite a lot of effect with very little effort by just having a small amount of water in a little jam jar, one color of paint that you can get, like the little tablets, and put that into a little bowl, and some paper, and then they can do some simple watercolor, for example. And then my language baskets are really popular always as well. So they may not be matching to pictures yet, but they will, so basically the idea of a language. Do you want to explain language baskets?
So I actually have one here, if you just give me a second.
So vocabulary baskets, yeah.
So language baskets are preferably with real objects at first. So real items, whether they're fruits and vegetables and things like that, which are objects that we can give vocabulary to. And then we can move on to items that are similar, such as a beautiful elephant. So you can't really invite an elephant into your home, but you can get an object that is very realistic looking and similar, or a rhinoceros and things like that. And those are wonderful to give vocabulary. And then afterwards you can do like little, maybe search or cut out some photos and have some cards that they will then be able to match the two. And this is all just like simple language activities that they just adore. And later on it will be just maybe just the cards and things like that. Is that what you have as well?
Yeah, exactly. So Language baskets are great. And even just as they're playing with them, you can just keep naming them. It doesn't have to be formal lessons or anything like this particularly, you know, just keep naming everything. And you can do this on your walk through the park. If you spot a Labrador, say, look at that beautiful Labrador, as opposed to look at the woof woof. You know, you don't have to dumb down anything with 19-month-olds or any babies even. Just use the proper language and they'll pick it up. And then the Russian doll, they already start loving around this age, and you can maybe keep it simple by having just a couple of the layers, and then when they start to master that, the Russian doll's just behind Jeanne-Marie. Maybe it was going into my mind. I didn't even notice it. And like Jeanne-Marie was talking about, maybe they like transferring things. And one of the favorites in my class is always having like a scoop where they're putting little stones into an ice cube tray. And then sometimes I move it into tweezers, little like sugar cube tweezers, and trying to do that. So working that hand in lots and lots of different ways. So that gives you lots of ideas for 19-month-olds. Sorry if you don't have a 19-month-old, but those kind of activities will be good for young toddlers, put it that way. The next question she had was, most of our board books are out on his shelf with his other toys. We read a lot. Is this the right approach, or should we have a more limited amount of books that we rotate on a separate shelf? Would you like to start with that one?
I'm sorry, I was being distracted.
That's okay. Most of our board books are out on his shelf with these other toys. We read a lot. Is this the right approach, or should we have a more limited amount of books that we rotate or put on a separate shelf?
So personally, I do prefer that the books be separated, or at least be in a designated basket or a forward-facing shelf. And just like the toys, I tend to limit the books so that there's not an overwhelm, and just like the toys, rotate them. You've probably noticed that there are some books that are just being read over and over again, so those are definitely the ones that you keep out. Or if there's a specific interest that they're wanting to know more about these days, then those would be the books that you have out. But I try to definitely have kind of an organized area where there's an area for the books and there's an area for the toys. So hope that helps. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the same thing, because also what I've noticed is not only does it limit, it helps their concentration, but when the books come out that they haven't seen for a while, it keeps everything fresh. And what I also didn't mention earlier is that when you're rotating the toys, they show renewed interest for things that they haven't seen for a while. So even with older children, as my children got older, I thought I would just do it as they were under 6, but actually I kept doing and rotating toys right up through primary school, which goes up to 12 years old. And for example, a Lego set, I'd take out have one Lego set available, and when I started tripping over the house and they weren't playing with it anymore, then we'd rotate it. Oh look, we haven't seen this for a while. And then they're building different types of vehicles from another set, and then when they're not using those anymore, then I keep rotating. It keeps your toys fresh, it keeps them in good condition, it keeps things together in sets without just having a big toy box with everything that you can't find any of the parts.
Yes.
So you get a lot more use out of your toys.
Yes.
Great. Okay. And then the last one is a longer question, but I think it's really worth reading all of it because it's probably everyone can relate. It says, we do some toy rotation, but we keep it quite minimal and don't have that many toys. Currently, we have a few stacking threading toys, nesting bowls, a few musical instruments that I rotate, a few cars on little trays, a Grimm's tunnel, rainbow, a wooden camera, books plus some building blocks on his shelf in his room. I observed that with some toys he's been playing with daily since he's about 12 to 13 months old, mainly the threading, stacking toys and cars, plus musical instruments. So I keep them on the shelf. Other toys that have more to do with fine motor balance, such as building blocks and the Grimm's tunnel, he shows no interest. I know Montessori is about following the child, so I sometimes put the tunnel away and take it out again to see if I can foster interest. However, I keep the building blocks out as I hope he'll play with them at some stage. Is this the right approach? Shall I keep trying with the blocks, or should I give them away and get other blocks? A daycare who plays with Lego. I think blocks are great in so many ways, and I hope he might become interested at some stage. But what's your take on that? Do I deprive him of his interest in more Lego style blocks if I don't offer them at home, or is it okay to be persistent as he might show interest at a later stage? Thanks, and best wishes, Juba.
That's so it's about again observing, I think, because if there is no interest, I mean, if you think that it's an activity that he will be interested in later, I would definitely keep it. And you might want to just put out a few blocks, like not the whole, not the whole set. So there's a start of an interest, and then bring out some more. But yeah, that's a tough one, because I mean, some of it is what we think will interest them, and then there's that part of what really does interest them. And for me, if there's something that he keeps on repeating and is very intrigued, it's like there's something there that he needs to get more out of, and that's fine.
Yeah, I definitely am kind of more brutal as well. I kind of just basically say, if they're not using it, then I put it away, and I just bring it out in a month or in like a week or two and see if they're interested. The other thing that you can do, like what they tell us in our Montessori training, if you see that there's someone not working with the material, then I'll sit down and work with it myself. And sometimes if you were maybe building blocks in an interesting way, they might be more engaged and see possibilities and that kind of thing. But I would never force it. So I just keep taking things out that they're not using, and just trust that it will come. And maybe he'll never get interested in blocks, so maybe it won't be till he's over 2. It might be later, and that kind of thing. With Legos, you could have some at home, but it's also fine if you choose not to. Like, for example, my son was mad on Thomas the Train, and I wasn't keen on having it in our home, but he was so excited every time he went to visit his friend who had a great Thomas the Train set. So it then was something like I could have indulged it and had it also at home. But I don't feel like it deprived him by not having it, because he really enjoyed it when he was at his friend's place. So he knew that, and that might be how your son is about Lego as well. And personally, I like Lego. So we did gradually build up quite a nice Lego collection. And I like loose play Lego, as well as sometimes the sets are fun too, for them to build more elaborate things that they wouldn't be able to come up with maybe by themselves. So that's super fun. All right. I think we've covered a lot already.
And just on that point, and I know this is maybe later, but I think it's important to say, is that we as the parents or the adults, if we have an in-home daycare or anything, we are the curators of the environment, so we still make those decisions. And so just to share a personal story is, for me, I never wanted electronic games, video games, and all that to be in my home. And that's just, I have a 17-year-old and a 21-year-old. So, I'm no longer in the toddler stage, but I could have very well let myself be influenced by what everybody else had in their home and bring that into my home. But it's something that I really felt strongly about, of not wanting to have it in my home. And I know, at one point my son would say, "Oh, but Mom, the other kids have it." It's like, well, that's great. That's in their homes. But, we have different things in our homes. We spend our money differently. We travel, we do other things. And so just be okay with the choices that you make with what you put on your shelves and what you bring in and all of that. So that's just my little soapbox.
No, I love it. And everyone has different approaches. And I'm not a screen-free house, but we do use technology very mindfully. So we've always been very mindful about the programs that they're allowed to watch, the games that they're allowed to play, the machines that we have in the house, that kind of the devices, and how long they're used for. So the quality and the amount of time. And they've been really amazing at respecting that, and other people as well. And then at other people's homes, I have to trust that what they're doing in other people's homes, that happens there. And I know that my example, they're mostly around us, at home. Right. So we're going to move into the Zoom chat questions. There's a great one from Jessica Goldberg. It says, "Hi from Denver, Colorado. I'm at home with my 2-year-old boy-girl twins. I've been incorporating Montessori principles ideas in our approach in any way I can since my babies were born. A question that I have is how to respond when my children use tray materials in different ways than intended. If they aren't harming the materials and are just fascinated, for instance, with putting pieces in a container repeatedly, should I encourage this? Is it time to put these items away?"
So for me, that's exploration. If the material is being explored in a way that, we don't necessarily understand what their brains is asking them to figure out, Personally, I think it's okay. I mean, sometimes there's a misuse of material. So maybe, damaging the material, or maybe, playing more with it, they become, airplanes and things like that. That's where we might want to redirect and say, oh, let me show you how we use it. Or, kind of maybe say, oh, maybe let's go play with something else and put it away for a moment. But I mean, especially if you have material at home, that's such a hard one to kind of always be on top of it, and that it's only being used properly, because there are so many ways to use the material. I would rather let them explore it if it's in an intelligent, purposeful way.
Yeah, so I also always, when I first worked with Montessori, I thought that really all the materials had to be used in a special way. But then you would just find yourself correcting the child. And actually you realize if they're concentrating and they're not hurting the materials or someone else, then I'm going to allow that. For example, there's a child who's using a watering can to fill up a bucket as opposed to using it to water a plant. They're exploring it, as Jeanne-Marie was saying. And so I would rather let them stay concentrated rather than even stepping in to say, look, we watered the plants. Because sometimes that interruption, they all of a sudden aren't interested in the watering at all. And you've broken, for us, sometimes concentration is even more important. But if they were banging a glass on a window, then I would say, oh, that glass is for this, is for drinking, and step into that. Also, I heard a really nice thing from Sarah Mudry, and she differentiates tools from toys. So tools are things like a potty or a knife and fork. And these are things that we don't play with. We use them for their purpose. So if a child is now playing with my cutlery, I'm really happy to say, oh, we're going to be using these for eating later. So I'm not going to let you play with them, but you can, and then I would show them what else they could play with. And the same with the potty. It doesn't need to go on your head. It doesn't need to be a toy. It's really a potty. It's for sitting on. And I thought that was so nice and made it so much clearer in my head as well, like why I sometimes feel uncomfortable with kids exploring with something that's not really for exploring. It's really just knife and fork, and we can try that when we're eating, that kind of thing. So I think, I would also maybe question if they've outgrown something. So sometimes if they're starting to use materials in a bit of a creative way that you don't really like, then maybe it is time to put them away and rotate them for something else. They're not challenging enough, or they're too easy or they're too hard, can be a good reason. When things are just being thrown, for example, that's kind of creative, but it's not that useful. So then maybe I'd say, okay, maybe that's not one of the toys I'll keep out. Yeah. Great. Okay, and now Julia says, now I feel like getting rid of many of our toys, but it's quite difficult to convince grandparents not to buy another toy for my son. And I think this is a question I get asked a lot about, like, what about unwanted toys that you receive and unwanted gifts from family? So Jeanne-Marie, we've, I think, answered this before on a live call, but I think it's always worth revisiting for new people who are on the show.
So it's that, it's that part of educating as to why you make the choices you do, and that, you can, knowing that your relatives and such are coming from a place of love and want to do well. And so sometimes they just need a little guidance. And if you are trying to not bring in new items in the home, maybe you can suggest other ways that they can support your children or show their love. And it can be, memberships to different things that are around town. It can be a subscription to a good magazine that the children will enjoy. It's a trip to the library. It's again, more about experiences than it is about items. So they just need a little guidance, and you can suggest. And if there are some relatives that just insist on always buying things, and there that's a little harder, where you might have to put it away and exchange it later, or things like that. But I think if you really remember that they come from a place of just wanting to love and be generous and be supportive, then you can just very gracefully say, you know, I really appreciate all of the things that you're doing for us and everything. And I'm really trying to keep the toys to a minimum because I've noticed that it really helps on the behavior and our well-being in our home. And so, you know, please ask me before, or maybe even create a suggestion list, like a wish list of items that you would enjoy having, and also offer other suggestions of other ways that they can show their love and such.
Yeah. I think it's also fun to just say something like, oh, the thing that we're saving up for at the moment is such and such, so that you can direct it in a more appropriate way. I don't know, actually, Jeanne-Marie, did you mention zoo passes and things like this? Yes. So that can also be nice as well. I mean, also, I just think that you can be grateful. I think, like Jeanne-Marie says, it comes from love. And I used to get a little bit like, I don't want this. But actually, when you just see, they're not trying to annoy you by buying something that's unappreciated. They actually thought at the time that it was something that was suitable. So then I think just guiding them will really help, and being really grateful for the things they have. Or you can just make a box of things that are given to you that you will just bring out maybe when they're over or something like that. Oh, should we get out the toy that such and such? We don't play with it very often, but you know, we're really grateful to play with it while you're here. And so then they'll maybe ask, what toys do you like playing with when we're not here?
Right.
Kind of
Wonderful.
as well.
So there's another question here from Barbara. Did you see this about?
Yeah, Adeline first, and then we'll get to Barbara.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Adeline says, if I want to do matching of objects, does it mean I should have double of my Schleich animals? That's a good question. So matching objects is usually matching objects to a picture. So round the it's anyway, here we go. Matching an object to a picture. And you have two types of matching cards. You can take a photo or draw a picture exactly of this exact elephant. And that's the first step. So matching an exact replica, an exact picture. And then there's matching a similar. So Jeanne-Marie has a picture of an elephant on the plains in Africa, not exactly the one from her photo. And then they really have to abstract the essence of what is an elephant to be able to match it. Elephants are kind of easier, but if you had a vehicle, for example, I have a convertible in my class, and then a picture of a convertible that's a completely different color, different style vehicle, and they really have to then abstract the essence of what's a convertible to be able to match it to the picture. And when we're doing these language games, if they don't get it right the first time, instead of wanting to jump in and correct them, instead we can say, oh, you wanted to put the convertible on the picture of the fire engine, or whatever it was that they put it on top of. Just make a mental note that you'll have to need to go back and give the first period again, which is when we do the naming of the objects. Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So would you like to read out Barbara's?
So Barbara just said that she recently decluttered her daughter's room that is 4, and she has really been enjoying it. So that's wonderful. And I would like to involve her in her weekly rotation of activities. Until what extent do you think I can have her choose? So for one, I would be careful as to being rigid about, you know, a weekly rotation and such. I would rather that you be observing, that only rotate those toys that are not being used, and just say, hey, I've noticed that you haven't really played with this one. Should we trade it out for something else? So that it's a natural flow again of, you know, what comes and goes. And then, you know, you might go 3 weeks without rotating anything because she's using everything. So just being, you know, vigilant of not being too rigid as to the amount of time things stay on the shelf. For me, as long as they are getting something out of it, as long as they are exploring it, as long as they are focused and concentrated with it, there's no need to take it out. Once it's not being used, once it's being misused or damaged, then yes, we take it out and we rotate with something else.
And I noticed that my children did want to start to be involved in what things were taken out around that age. You know, they could take responsibility for it, and they understood that some things went away and some things came out. So getting them involved in that choice, I think, would be like, if they want to choose all 8 activities, let them choose all the 8 that they have, you know. And then you can also say, oh, you chose that one, but I see you're not playing with it, and could we try this? And you know, you could make suggestions and make it collaborative, but I think they could definitely start to be involved.
Yeah.
And then we had
And sorry, I just like
yeah.
and I just like Barbara's comment about how she noticed that her daughter really enjoyed it. I did a private home consultation just a week ago, where there was just a lot of toys in the house, in the living room, everywhere. And my suggestion was to really, take the time to declutter and put things away and it's not only the children that have enjoyed, but it's the parents. Like the entire atmosphere of the home has just been a lot more peaceful and serene and everything. So this is not only, just about the child's space. It's really about the family's well-being. That clutter, that too many things tend to overwhelm us, and we don't even notice the effect that it has on our mood, on our psyche, and on our children's behavior. So being just, aware of that is really important.
Cool. I'm just typing in the chat saying that we'll answer the last questions that have come in, but we're going to close the questions so that we'll be able to wrap up in the next 5-10 minutes. This has been fun. Okay, posting that. So we now have, after Barbara, it was... Jessica said, I really appreciate the thorough answer, ladies. Very helpful approaches and ideas. Thank you. So Jessica had asked us about when they were not misusing activity, but using them in a way that we weren't expecting it. So I'm glad that was very helpful. And then Adeline said, the wish list is amazing to guide them. It worked well for Christmas. Thank you again, Jeanne-Marie. Seven says, thank you both for covering this. It's very helpful. Adeline said, I heard both objects first and then image. That's why I'm asking. Thanks. And also sometimes I just have 2 pictures that they can match and they still find that fun. And the other activity that I've also created that's not specifically from our albums, but it was a silhouette of a shape, and then they have to place it on top. And that's also really fun. So they're doing language and at the same time matching the silhouette can be another extension.
And matching can be done with, when you're folding laundry, like, give them 3 pairs of their socks of, hopefully they're different colors or different patterns. And that in itself can be a matching, activity right there. So it's just about, being aware of just what you have around the home in your daily chores, and all of that can just be matching, or matching utensils. I mean, there's plenty of things that we can match around the home without having to create it for them.
Yeah, and I think also we didn't mention even matching to a book. Children will naturally go, yes, here's an elephant, and they'll run over to their favorite book.
That's right, yeah.
An elephant. Yeah. So you don't even need to often create cards at home unless, yeah. So that's something to also keep in mind. The other one that I thought of with talking about pairs is paired objects with a stereognostic bag, which is a mystery bag. And so yes, one of the variations is to have 2 spheres and 2 cubes and yes, 2 triangular prisms, so they can put their hand in and you can feel for. So stereognostic bag, sorry, I'm jumping ahead, is to develop the feeling around an object. So if we put our hands in our handbag and we put our hand in there, we can pull out our keys quite easily. But this actually is something that they need to develop around 2.5. You'll find that most of the time, otherwise they want to peek inside to see what it is with their eyes and not feel for it with their hands. So to develop this sense, you can have paired objects where you say, oh, look, I pulled out a cylinder. I'm going to see if I can find the other cylinder. Oh, look, here's the other cylinder. So then they're a match. So if you have objects around the home that are pairs, or that you have more than one of, then you could also play games like that. Okay, Adeline has another one. I'm welcoming 2 girls, both 12 months, next month in a daycare. I'm having trouble seeing what they will like to see when they arrive before I can get to observation and know better. I don't want to have too many things out, as there's also the 3 to 6 material in there. That's a really good question.
I would start with some food preparation, just because that tends to be something that they love and they gravitate. I really like, for example, if you have some pretty little containers, like the thing that I showed earlier, those can be nice because they are going to be intrigued. They're going to want to go, work with them and such. maybe, you know, one or two kind of more familiar toys that they would feel, you know, more connected to, something that, you know, you think they might have in their home, I think would be also something to think about. But you know, I think to me it's making the environment inviting, and you know, letting them know that they can choose certain things, and just showing right away what it is that they can choose, and, you know, making sure that the 3 to 6 material, that's kind of off limits for now. But yeah, I mean, I think that's, and I think Adeline, you have my that sequence chart that I've shown, that I actually shared in your course, Simone, that is really helpful to give us a sense of an idea of, you know, the type of activities that would be more appropriate at any given age.
What I'll do is I'll put them in the show notes too, because I'm sure a lot of people may not have seen those, and I'll add the list of activities. I've got a 42-page document of things that you can try, and maybe rather than purchasing every type of posting or threading toy, you have an example of them, or make a DIY version to see what's interesting before you make those purchases.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so yeah, I will send through the link to the PDF then, Adeline, because she couldn't see really well when she loaded it. Okay, perfect. Okay, everyone, I think that we've got to the end of our questions. It's been super fun. I think we're definitely going to use Zoom again, because it's really nice to be able to see your faces and get you on the call if we need to. The chat works really well. It's much more stable than Google Hangouts. And sorry about the hiccup at the beginning. You're most welcome, Kinga. She says, this has been inspiring. Thank you. And Barbara says, thank you for all the great inspiration and advices. I think it says advices.
Yes. And thank you everybody for your patience of holding on while we figured out this whole techie stuff. And thank goodness you had Zoom, Simone. And I do really like this Zoom where we can see everybody on and have them talk to us. So that's great.
Yeah. And Jeanne-Marie, is there anything that you wanted, that you're working on this month that you're excited about? How's your book writing going?
It's kind of harder than I had imagined. I don't know if I shared with everybody, but I have a book deal that I signed with a French publishing house to write the 50 golden rules of the Montessori method. But it's a very small guide. It's part of their Larousse mini series. And I'm limited to a certain amount of signs that I can put on each page, and to condense some of these topics of Montessori. That has been the challenge. I tend to ramble on, so I have to and that's been great. So I've really been focusing on that.
Did you see Adeline's comment? She says it's like decluttering the words. Exactly,
Adeline. Yes. And then I've had the wonderful Montessori parenting membership community that I started in January, and that I've just been really enjoying and delighted. I have, over 20 people in there that are all kind of the founding members. So I'm getting the hang of it, and I will open the doors up again probably in a couple of months once I have it more on a stable membership site. But so those are the projects. And then one more thing is, in April, I might be doing this from Russia, because I'm going off to give some workshops in Moscow.
Oh, that's super fun.
Yes.
Maybe you'll be broadcasting live from there.
Exactly.
Super fun.
Yes.
Adeline says she's been loving your program too, Jeanne-Marie, which is great.
Oh, good,
and Jessica said, you're both my Montessori heroes. I'm learning so much from the two of you. Well, we're just normal people here. I got a private message that my sound and my video were a bit blurry. I don't have the greatest internet, but anyway, we got through. I think we stayed stable. We stayed live. You could hear us. So we'll keep working on all the tech stuff, and we look forward to seeing you next month for the next Montessori show. Keep an eye on your email, and we'll keep you posted about the dates and things coming up. Okay, I'll say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, Simone.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.